Welcome to the 4th episode of the Forgotten series. Whew. It's going, man. It's really going. I can't believe we're only still in the beginning of this son of a bitch. Now, as we explored last time, we have the founding of that which lies outside of the known universe. From that point, we have established the Titans. And these Titans are the beings in which created the circles. We established who the main two Titans are that we really are concerned about, and that's Theis and Dhove. Those are the ones that the center of the story focuses on. It's been made clear along the way that it is Theis who was chosen, or said to be chosen, by the Creator to do this work, to go to the fringes of the known universe, and from there bring all the beings into ascension. But when he discovered something that lied outside of this, something in the darkness outside of the known universe, it was him who decided to bring that as well into the circle. But how could he do that? Well, first he needed him and his brethren to create the known world. The world that happens to be Uandra, the planet. And he founded the Anakus, and he placed them in their bodies with the aid of his other Titans. And they all created the known world and all the creatures that inhabit in it. They gathered them all up. And in that gathering, they made these two strange beings. And later would create the multitude of beings. And then they would make more. Into more multitude of beings. You see how that kind of keeps going down? We have a family tree here, don't we? These two main beings were made in the very substance which was the planet Uandra. Now, they took these little beings and they gave them life. They took a world and wrapped around this darkness that is within the world. And they put the little creatures on it and said, you have life. And from that point where we left off in the story, it is Dhove who was tasked by Theis to bring the Anaku people consciousness. But something goes a bit astray as he's doing this. And from that point, we shall take the story going further. The rise of the Aeon. What are the Aeon? Or also called the AOC? People that sprouted from the hills. Yet, when they were in the realms of the circle, they were not known as Aeon. In fact, they did not have bodies like we could understand. For they are somewhat spirits in nature, but it is unclear as to how they came to be. Before they discovered the emptiness that lies outside of the universe, they discovered what lies at the fringes. And from here, they made this process of life. The Titans did. Where these unidentifiable beings would be given true life and purpose. They would call this process the circle. At the creation of this circle, or collection of realms, or even states, the Titans formed from nothingness purpose, a purpose that which the circle would become an ascension for the multitude of beings that resided at the fringes of reality itself. Now as for the Aeon, they were beings like all others, though they were never discovered by the Titans as they gathered the beings. Quote, on the fringes of reality, where the lesser beings lied, there was a built ascension, one that was deemed by Theis himself. For in the Titans' long travel did they discover not one single being was as mighty as they. And soon enough, the Creator himself would reveal himself to Theis and ask of him to bring these fringes and these beings back into the fold. Or at least that is what the story told. Hey guys, let's talk about the fringes. What are the fringes? Let's talk about it. We can agree that this is the known universe. And as we understand it, it's ever expanding. At least that's what the science guys will tell you. It's always ever expanding. It's moving and moving and moving and growing, right? Now, what lies outside of it? I'm sure science has opinions about it. I don't know any of them. But what I'm saying is this I'm just calling it darkness, for lack of a better fucking term. And inside of this darkness is where Uandra was made, the planet. I've talked about it in the past videos. If you don't have it by this point, you just got to go back and rewatch it. Now, as the universe expands, and we have Uandra on the outside, the fringes are clearly this line here. But the point at which the universe literally stops, and from nothingness is outside of it. This area here is accessed in a different dimensional understanding. That's that multi-dimensional, that thing we've talked about. This point here is where we see the circle established. That bad boy, okay? That's where this understanding is established, the circle. It's in this area here. Now, I don't necessarily know how it lays on here, and like, is it merely this? And then all of a sudden we have the circle? I don't know. But the countless beings that exist in different dimensional understanding are where the Titans worked, and they weaved all this together. These other beings. And then they end up going back to what we consider the center of the galaxy. The center of the universe. The center of the universe is where everything grows from without. Because if we think that the Big Bang happened and we think that it's expanding in all different directions, well, there's got to be a source. And that's where they believe the Creator is. And that's the Titans. They believe they're doing their right will. So since these fringes are so together in the other dimensional understanding of where beings may exist, they end up all going back to the source. In going back to the source, we have the belief system of recycling. So it comes into the center of creation, which exists the same here. So we have this, the eye of God, is where the creation happens. We have the schism. I don't remember how to spell schism, forgive me. And then this point is where they go back and everything is recycled in that sense. So that which the fringes have been sewn together, they're thrown back into here as they pass through the schism into the realm of creation, and then they're pushed out and used in the universe. All of a sudden, here's a new galaxy because of that, all that energy that we drew. The Titans believe that this is a beautiful, good thing, right? Then from that point, we have their belief that there's something else going on. And that's the story that we've been telling this whole time. To get to that point, to get to the fucking universe, what would become Uandra, they have that thing that I showed you. The fractal nature. The fractal nature of the ascendancy through the circles. That is how we gain back access to this point. And outside, the smallest one there, we have Uandra, the planet in which everything happens on. And the story going forward will take place more here than it will in that weird ethereal shit. We're not quite there yet. So that's just how you need to understand how the fringes of the universe work, and how in this area that which the Titans passed through and got into the realm of darkness to create the planet Uandra. That's just kind of what that basically means.
Now, in order to understand this, we must know the realm in which the Titans traveled and created the circle within was indeed the universe, though it was not on the mortal plane, meaning they moved through what we could call as of now the astral. And when they happened upon the realm of creation, it was Theis who was chosen by the Creator to do his bidding, and in this place bring all beings that dwelt in this realm back to creation. We could understand the fringes of the universe as the crossroads and the realms that lie beyond the mortal plane.
You have this concept. This is the tool, all of this, in which the Titans created. This is the soul's pilgrimage here, but it goes here. And in this, you have another circle, and that's another realm. How many are there of these? I don't know yet. There's probably a fuck ton, or there might be none at all. But you keep jumping, and each one of them has this portal, which we could call the cauldron. Why the fuck not? But in my mind, I've always thought of it as the realm of creation, the God's toolbox, the place that makes. And so the Titans made each individual realms as they keep going higher and higher and higher.
We could think the cauldron in the center of each one of these realms is sort of a portal which allows transportation back and forth. So from the lowest frequency all the way to the point at which we can jump back into the universe once again.
And each one is fractal in its understanding. So this works like that. And you keep going and going and going, and each one is another realm of understanding.
All of this was made at the behest of the Creator, and we have done well.
The spirit and the host. Dhove would create the mind, which was a blank canvas that would inhabit the consciousness of Anaku. One could think of it as a realm in a sense, an empty place that would harbor the essence of thoughts and feelings, spirits in a sense. This place is not unlike a body itself. It is a vessel, a husk, a portal from the astral where the Titans inhabited. And through this place stored memory and thought would then be led back into the physical realm. We could think of it as a sort of crossroads or even staging area for the mind and body. The vessels of the soul, for this is why we can dream once we sleep. We are passing from the body of the physical, sleeping in our beds, and pass into the mind body that is traversing the dream. Now, as Dhove made this empty vessel, it would be by chance that an AOC or an AM, or even this conveyor, depending on the storyteller, would enter that mind and take shape. To understand what this means, we must understand what the mind is. As it was stated before, this mind stores collective thoughts, memories, and states of being. It is the vessel of the countless emotions that were later made by Dhove. More on that later. This mind is also a sort of body that allows us to traverse this place outside the physical world. The mind is the vehicle that allows the perception to be housed, whether that is in the physical, where it interprets meaning from our basic senses, or whether it is in the astral realm, where the mind houses the tools that allows us to perceive what sight is there. Now, the sight of the astral realm is another part of a being, yet we are not quite at that point yet. Let us return to the story of this AOC.
Dhove the Maker created this mind through these stones. These were special rocks that held great enchantments in the other place. It was said he arranged them into a circle, and from some great energy was harnessed from that point. Though the summoning it was discovered he could bring the vessel, or this mind, into existence. Yet what he could not foretell in all his wisdom is what this empty vessel would attract. Just what would come from this process. But how was he able to do this? Let us look more into the stones of the mind. Dhove set about to bring forth the powers that would allow his vessel to hold a source. This, however, would prove to be quite difficult. For first, he needed to create this place that would be able to draw such a power. And he knew the only way to do this was to acquire the stones of the mind. Here's the important bit here. When we think about this being that Dhove discovered, when he was making inside this astral realm, he was laying this being, this empty vessel, inside of the sacred circle, kind of like a megalithic thing. You had all these magic stones all around. They have their own purpose. Imagine it looks something like this out in the distance. You see these stone circles, and in the middle there would be the place in which the AOC was created. Dhove himself took these stones from the foundation of the circle, and from that point, as he laid these out from largest to smallest, and in the middle place the cauldron, that is where he could invoke life, but only by splitting himself in two. And you lay the being inside of it. He's going to do an incantation. Now, the incantation is very strange in and of itself. So,
First of all, those pillars, what exactly are they? All those stones, I call them pillars, I call them stones, it really depends on how you translate it, but we'll just think of it as the pillars all around in this stone circle. Almost the same as fucking this. It mirrors that. The stones, so these individual circles are realms when it comes to the circle, but when he was redoing it in the astral realm, just these are replaced with stones. And these stones were pulled from the seat of the circle.
Each one of these stones is a fragment from each realm that they came from, placed in the same circle that the realms exist in. Now these stones are the foundation of each realm, that place in which the souls can season them in the cauldron of life, warmed by the fires, in which the fires are going to be what Dhove will use in the creation of the mind of the Anaku.
Essentially, the fires from the cauldron is what he uses to get these stones. I don't know necessarily how it works, mostly because I make it up on the fly. But I imagine that when he uses these stones inside of this realm, these souls will rub against it. They're swirling in this stone cauldron, and they bump against it, bump. And in a sense, it seasons the stone. These are special places of the foundation of the circle, a place only ever called Tir Namar, or the realm of the dead. It was here the stones were pulled from the very source that held all in place. It was said these stones could hold within them the true essence of creation. In that place where the souls were gathered to ascend, it was said the rocks in which held them absorbed great power, seasoned by the countless beings. And once he returned to the astral world, he placed his stones and began the ritual.
Now, to create such a vessel, he needed to impart some part of his very own mind, but a part of himself that was empty. Empty so that nothing could claim his power as a Titan. With this, he used the sword of power. It was this very word that would allow the transfer of his essence into the body. Once it was done, the ritual began, and soon enough, the mind was created, the vessel ready. Yet there was something that happened that he did not intend. It was filled before he could even close it. Quote, "When the body lay upon the ground, surrounded by those sacred stones, the powers of the sword, forged by Huron the smith, cut into Dhove's mind and separated in two, one half being his very own, full of great immense power, and the other half being one in which thoughts could grow and shape. In order to bring life into that vessel, he needed to harness the source of Gorias, or fire, and shift the balance into such a mind. Yet something terrible came about, something he could not ever imagine would transpire. As the vessel came to life, there was a being that slipped into it, one that was not there before among the dead, one that hid itself from Dhove. Once it entered the vessel, it began to twist and morph, convulsion upon the floor, until it was a shock of light and turned into some resemblance of a being. Not one ever known in the circle, but something different entirely. Yet something familiar. At first he thought it was a part of himself, but soon enough he came to realize this was something vastly different. Though he felt he was looking into a mirror, that's reflection showed back to him words he could never have uttered. He was shocked, but he relented his hand from destroying the creation, for his curiosity was far too encompassing." End quote.
When Dhove was presented with this being, there was something familiar about it, but something he couldn't trace. It wasn't like, oh, it's familiar because, I know why. It was just like, I don't know what it is, but there's something about this fucking guy that's super familiar to me. And he needed to discover what that was.
And now it was filled. That mind took shape in the astral realm into a being, one not so different than he. At first, Dhove was quite alarmed and almost destroyed the being, but it quickly spoke to Dhove while his sword hung there in the air waiting to strike.
raising in him a deep concern, one that was made as a bargain for his life. And the being said, "Before you seek to destroy me, you must listen to what I have to tell, for this concerns you just as much as it does my people." A shocked Dhove found himself too intrigued to destroy it, for its words, though cryptic and strange, held a great sway on him, more than he could ever realize. For later he was said to utter, quote, "There were the words from the Creator himself," one of the greatest betrayals of the Titans in the coming story. For it was this being who wished to prove to Dhove Theis' true intent, the lies he had told and how he never spoke to the Creator. For the Creator was before him now, but it made a bargain with him, for his story was so far-fetched to believe at face value. If the being could not persuade him, then he would leave the mind and Dhove to his business. If he could persuade him of Theis' treachery, then he would tell Dhove of the plight of his people. Dhove would eventually agree, for he was curious of what this being could know. And though he would never seek to betray his brother, he did find himself pulling to surface a question he had never wanted to admit was within him. Does Theis truly speak for our Creator? He thought. Then he turned his eyes to the being. "What is your name? What shall I call you?"
Ariun was all he said, a name so familiar, yet so vastly unknown in his heart.
I'm going to tell you the story of the first encounter between Dhove and this entity that grew from it. And it goes something like this. "Tell me, how do you know that the beings of the circle are meant to ascend to what you consider the universe? How do you know that this is indeed what the Creator wishes?" And Dhove responded, "Well, for it was told to Theis, it was said to him, the Creator birthed this knowledge to him, and he is the chosen one to lead us," he said very matter-of-factly. The being responded, "And who is the Creator?" And now Dhove pondered it for a moment, and he looked at him strangely, and he said, he's the Creator. That's who the Creator is." And the being said, "And you know he is? For has he spoken to you as well? Is that how you know who the Creator is?" And Dhove's like, "Well, no, actually. It's only that Theis that speaks to the Creator. He is the chosen one. He's the benefactor of everything. One man speaks for such a being. Seems very suspicious, does it not?" Dhove said, What are you saying? What are you trying to say?" And he almost raised his sword in anger, but he held himself. He relented that, and he said, "And what would you mean by that?" he asked calmly. And the being only responded, "Would the Creator ignore his created?" Now Dhove's looking at this being laying from this cauldron, lifted itself up, clambering on the edges and looking at him from one being to another. And you have to understand, when Dhove looks out to him, he sees a part of himself, but there's a part that he does not understand. So it's almost like he's having this conversation with himself, but he's also having a conversation with maybe a part of him that he never realized was there. Maybe this was God from within him, or maybe it was God that came into him. This is a very strange dialogue going back and forth. A question that Dhove was plagued with for years, though. Why does the Creator only speak to Theis? And he was confused about this, but this being is bringing about this, and he's not necessarily sure. I don't know, is this a test? Is this tempting me? I don't understand. What is this? And the being continued, "And what Creator would not know of what you do here? You and those others. It's clear your intentions are good. For you, I can say that. But what creator would ask him, or has created, to make their own world? Their own universe at that. Do you think he sees beyond what you call the universe? He looked over to Dove. In his eyes was a glimmer, one that smiled out to him, one that was a whisper in his mind, a quiet whisper. Dove couldn't necessarily answer him. Not then, for he did not know what his thoughts would go and where they would come. Instead, Ariun spoke again. Come, let me show you what I wanted to show you. Since you cannot make any judgment now, I will take you to where my people inhabit. There you will see the truth in Theis and his ambitions. And from there you will make your judgment.
There they departed from the astral and vanished into the circle. Dove was amazed at how Ariun could traverse into the circle with ease, for in his mind he did not know of any other that could, such as the Titans did. To see a being leave the circle was amazing, but to pass back in was astounding as well. Within the circle of realms they fled deeper and deeper, until he was in a place unrecognizable, a realm all its own, that to his astonishment seemed a wretched place, a place void of balance, one that did not see the guiding hand of Theis, nor any other Titan. It was a hellish landscape, with torment and anguish all around. Beings looked to be in a torturous state and suffered greatly. They looked no more different than slaves toiling under the burning sun, though they clambered into large lines that reached to the heavens. Some fought, others wept. It seemed as if they were awaiting something in those lines, for a reprieve from their toil. Dove looked to the heavens, where the bodies would ascend, and saw only a shimmering mirror that would fade clear, and through the window another world lay beyond, a world that was more than familiar to him, a world that held the house of the Titans. He did not know how, but he was looking on the very temple in which the Titans would deliberate and hear the words of Theis. He was shocked, he was afraid. Before he could ask what was happening to those wretched beings, Ariun then told him of the AOC, for it was here Dove learned of how they lived.
These people are no more than fodder to those Titans. For look now, you see them being consumed by your brethren. Dove himself was not entirely sure if the Titans knew of what they did. For the AOC, as they were called, were being consumed through the mirror that divided their realm and the realm of the Titans. Once that mirror faded, and through that clear window that divided both open worlds and the world beyond, it was the AOC who were being pulled through to have their bodies turn to vapor once they entered the other side. And they were inhaled by the Titans. Their wisp-like essence seeped through the nostrils, and they ran through their veins. How Dove could know this, it was hard to say. They do not know what they do, cried Dove. Do they not? Said Ariun. Well, why do you think Theis chose such a realm in the first place? He knows the powers are being granted to him and his brethren, and he knows the very power that aids his ascension as a living God. How? Cried Dove. How can you say such things? How can I say? Look around you. He gestured to the wretched AOC. Their screaming and agony poured and pounded into his ears. All that lay around him was great torment, one that would never let him be. To suffer such atrocities, to have your death mean nothing, invoked in him something powerful. It awoke within and never did that flame extinguish. So he begged of Ariun, let me prove to you they do not mean harm. Let me show you what they are capable of. I will speak to Theis myself, and I will show him this realm, what we do in the shadows of our thoughts. I am sure he will save them. I know, in fact, he will do what is right. From that point, we go into the next section, which is Dhove's plea with Theis, where he's going to show him just what's going on. Because in his mind, he's like, they don't know what's going on. They don't know they're absorbing beings from another realm and it's giving them power. There's no way. I don't know that. And let me prove it to you. You think we're here for such ill intent. Let me show you that we're not. It's all on accident. And I can prove it to you because Theis is a good man and he will do it. And he will see what's wrong and he will make it right just as he did before. The circles of the realms, these beings that suffered before us. The Anaku on Yuandra, the consciousness which I'm building, which you inhabit now. It's all for good, just as everything should be. And we're doing this in the base of the Creator. And though he might have been conflicted when he's being asked these questions by Ariun and saying, how do you know that the Creator wants you to do this? Surely Theis will have the answer. I hope you enjoyed where we came from, and I know this is quite a lot to unravel, it's quite a lot to understand, but you have to see that the story is crucial because understanding how this place was made and understanding the circles and understanding these realms, it will make it much easier once we go forward into the story. But as you can see, Theis and Dhove, the two mighty beings, as it was said in the intro, clashing. We haven't got to that point yet, but we can find out just how all this came to be.